Hello and welcome to Intuitive Journey with Desiree. I am Desiree Holmes Scherini, your host. And today I am just making a brief recording to follow up on an article I just published in Brainz magazine. And I thought, I'm going to just add this to my YouTube podcast because I think it's really a valuable tool, and it's on Stoicism. The article was talking about Stoicism as a tool for today's chaotic world. And what is Stoicism? And as I said in the article, I didn't really understand what a Stoic was or Stoicism. I thought Stoic meant somebody who didn't care or indifferent, and until I started learning about Stoicism as a philosophy, which started in Greece, ancient Greece, carried over into Rome, and was a philosophy of being, a way of thinking and acting. And as I learned more, I realized that I was a Stoic, that my own life, my own training, what I work with clients, and how I encourage them to live their lives is, in a way, a Stoic life. What's that mean? So the biggest, most, I think, fundamental tenet of Stoicism is that we can't control outside things, that we don't control the outside world. Things happen outside, things happen. The wind blows, people are mean, tragedies, good things happen, bad things happen. And the point is that what we can control is our labels. What we can control are our reactions and responses. And so what does that mean? How do we use that idea that we can't control the outside? And the first step, the first thing that you can do to use the idea of Stoicism, and you can look this up. There are many, names associated with it, from Socrates to Aristotle. The kind of go-to guy that I think is most associated with Stoicism is Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He wrote a book, not to write a book. These were his own notes to himself, and it ended up a book called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So it's a resource of sorts, of short quotes and writings by him for himself that he wrote in his time to help himself. So you can find that. You can Google Stoicism quotes and get an insight and some inspiration, some thought-provoking guidance for your own life. So segue back to the basic tenet: you can't control other events, other people, but what can you control? And you take that control, you take that personal responsibility to manage your own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And that might sound trite, might sound, well, of course, but how many people really stop and think before they think, before they decide to label something good or bad, before they decide that they've been victimized, before they get angry or throw a tantrum or do something stupid that makes things worse, or don't stand up for themselves, or have patterns of behavior that are maladaptive and don't serve them or others as far as leading toward a happier, better life. And it all begins with what we think of something, what we decide something means. And then we can end up ruminating in a false belief, or, it might be true. Whatever, if we decide there's a negative or something quote unquote bad. But if we end up sticking in that, and staying in that this is bad, I'm hurt, I'm a victim, then it kind of can take on a life of its own, and then it leads to the emotions that go with those thoughts. And those emotions then lead to behaviors that can lead to looping and into more negativity or depression, sadness, whatever it can be. Now, look the other way. If someone chooses to feel an autonomy over their thoughts, something happens so they can see it simply as a thing. Something just happened. This person treated me rudely. They yelled at me, or unfairly. And you cannot change what the person did, said, or how they're treating you. So you can choose. You can choose, all right, well, I don't like that. And I'm not saying ignore normal. It's perfectly natural and normal to have a normal response. But what you choose to do, whether you stay there and perpetuate that, is different. So you can say, wow, that wasn't okay. You do what you can do. And this is where it's just the same thing I'm always teaching. You do what you can do about a situation. And whatever that action is, then once you've done, whatever pragmatic, speak up, communicate, uh, decide not to do anything about it, but whatever you've decided, then you take control of your thought. You say, okay, this is just a thing. It's just a thing. This is how that person is. And I'm not going to allow that person's behavior to impact my well-being, my inner world. So Stoicism, the idea to see things as neutral as you can, take action that makes sense, and then neutralize whatever it was. If it's, has a negative impact, neutralize it so that it does not affect you negatively. So choosing, okay, that's that person's problem, that they have an inability to be fair, be kind, or whatever. That's their problem. It's not mine, and I'm not going to take it. I'm going to choose a thought to release that, take a deep breath, and be grateful that that's not me, that I don't have to carry this around. And I'm going to choose a more positive emotion that turns away from that behavior. And then my own behavior will be much calmer, much happier, much less affected by the outside influence of negativity. Now, similarly, great things can happen. And guess what? You can choose to allow great feelings to come in. So obviously, the tools of Stoicism will be much more useful for things that we might label as negative, for what we might call as unfortunate events. But even with positive things, it's like making a choice. Every day we have a choice of how we're going to interpret something, and it takes mental discipline and practice to train ourselves sometimes to break out of old patterns of thinking, of how we respond. And I want to say it's not our fault, but what is our quote unquote fault is whether or not we allow something to perpetuate that does not serve us well. So having that self-awareness, understanding and seeing your thoughts, seeing where you choose to interpret something, and you can stop and say, wait, am I interpreting this in a way that's going to benefit me? Am I choosing to think about this in a way that feels good and helps me be happier, lead a more content life? Or am I choosing to think of, situations, people, events in a way that brings me down? And again, since we can't control what's out there, we can control what's in here. And we can make a difference in our inner world. We are immensely powerful through our own thoughts to manage our emotions, our behaviors, and our beliefs. We just have to remember that and make those choices. So I'll have a link to my short article on Stoicism. And, I just want to plug that it might be, if you're finding yourself feeling overwhelmed, victimized, angry, frustrated, that diving into the philosophy of Stoicism probably benefits you, probably provide you a place of peace to kind of just step back and say, you know what? I don't have to think these thoughts. I can feel better about things. And it's almost like very magical to just be able to train yourself to be able to take that power back from the outside and bring it in here. So that's my kind of quick talk on Stoicism. Go look it up, read some, quotes. Go buy yourself Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and use it as a source. Use it as a resource for a happier, better way of being. Thanks for being here. Have a beautiful day. Bye.